Hello, and welcome to another episode of GearHeadGeeks, where in this video we are going to take a 1985 Kawasaki 1100 LTD and we are going to revive it. It's on its way here from being delivered, and we are going to go on ahead and clean it up. From what I've seen, it looks good, but it is in dire need of help. It is really gummed up. The throttle doesn't work. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that doesn't work. So we're going to go on ahead and fix all that and get this thing running and driving. And so before we start working on our 1100 LTD, there's a couple things we need to do. First, it's a little hard to roll, so I'm going to put some air in the tires, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to wash it off. And even though it is in really good shape and it's really not all that dirty, it's a good idea to just get any excess crud off of it, any kind of wildlife that may have nested in there, anything that you can do to give yourself a break. So we're going to go put some air in the tires. I'm going to go rinse this thing off. I'm just going to use some sort of cleaner on it and give it a quick washing off with the power hose, you know, something like Simple Green. I've got some WD-40 bike cleaner. We'll just throw some stuff on it, get it cleaned up so that when we go to work on it, we're just not dealing with any dirt. And another great reason to have an air compressor. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get the gas cap off of this while it's still on the bike, so I can just deal with it. I was gonna pick the lock, but I thought, no, I'll just drive the pin out of the back and let's see if we can get it out of there that way. So let me get this camera aimed at the gas tank, and here we are. And all I need to do is, I've got a small punch here, and we're just coming. Gotta be gentle, don't hit the tank. Oops. And our pin fell out, but that's okay, we'll find it. Okay, so now, let me grab the camera here. And here we go. Yep. And it's not looking too bad in there. There's some rust. And it looks like it's just all on the surface though. This thing is okay. We'll take it apart and we'll get the key lock working properly. No problem with that. And it does not smell good in there at all. That's some old stuff. Let me go get a flashlight and we'll take a look together. Oh no, it's not bad at all in there. The rust really isn't. Well, there's a little bit in there. It's just surface. But there's a lot of shiny metal inside. Phew-wee. See if we can try to get the light so you can see in there. But it's not horrible. Yeah, we'll be able to deal with that. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to be doing here is going on ahead and let's get the seat off of here and see what we can do. I guess the screws that hold it on are underneath this. I looked in the parts book to see what was going on with it. And I guess this is the toolkit holder. And then there's a couple, it's like there's a couple screws in here. Oh, here's one of them's already fallen out, so it must have been sitting in there. And these are number 2s. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, there's a couple number 2s. They've been kind of stripped out, but that's okay. Nothing we can't handle. And I'm just going to do this by the Braille method. Excess hoses and whatnot, and then I'm going to spray some penetrating lubricant onto the throttle shafts, and let's see if we can get those things started to loosen up. So, and it seems to work pretty good. It's not bad stuff. Okay, so let's go on ahead and remove the diaphragm on this one. Top here a little bit. Now we got to be real careful. You don't want to, if the diaphragm is sticking, which it is a little bit, we need to make sure that we don't tear it up. I'm going to look in here and see if I can't make sure it comes loose ever so gently. These diaphragms are extremely expensive. There we go. No sweat. And luckily these, again, the diaphragms are in great shape. They're soft, they're pliable. Of course the slide is stuck, but that's okay. We'll just take a little bit of brake clean, spray around the inside, give it a few seconds to soak in. So now after soaking this slide with some brake clean, it has successfully come out. It's still a little hokey looking and it needs to be cleaned up, but it has pretty much come out. I'm wearing gloves because it's just nasty stuff in there. So now it's the next day and I have ordered new boots for our carb intakes and new rubber manifolds that go against the engine to the carb. Luckily, Kawasaki still has those parts after all these years. What is this? 40 years later? Yeah, something like that, and they still have it. You can buy them right from Kawasaki. They're not cheap, but you can buy them. So, yeah, so keep in mind that we are not here to, we're going to be doing, a complete cleanup and restoration and fixing all the parts of this, but the first thing we're going to do is, will it run? So, first things first, we'll get the spark plugs out of here, and we'll take a look at them. Trim them away. And yeah, it's dark, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it could be, these are, Yeah, this is the right plug, BR80S. Not bad. It's a little bit wet, but it's not rusty or anything. So I am going to just take some penetrating lube, and let's just put some lube down the cylinders. No biggie. I'm not going to get crazy here. We just want to get something around those rings. And because the pistons are flat and domed, if I put it in the center, it'll run off to the sides. So as I get ready to put these back together, this one still needs to loosen up, but this guy is all cleaned up and ready to go. You have to index this diaphragm, and there's a little tiny nub here, and it's a little hard to see. I don't know. I'm going to try and let me zoom in, get a close-up for you. But if we look right here, you can see that little, not divot, but you know, just a little bit of casting in there. And then you can see on the slide, on the diaphragm itself, it fits right into that. So what you do is you line that up perfectly, and then you lay it down, and then you can put the rest of it together. So I'm going to put the spring in here, and I'll line all that up, and then put the cap back on. So now, with our bike up on the lift, we have already sprayed down the cylinders, so each of them have been soaking for a little while. Our carburetors are all free. The slides are free. The butterflies are free. We don't know what's in the bowls yet, but we'll be dealing with that in a little bit. So next thing we want to do is remove this cover, and this has just got a 5mm on it, so hopefully I can just grab one of these and pop it loose. But now we have soaked down each and every one of the cylinders. It's been sitting for a while, and I have a feeling this engine's loose anyway. But the first thing you want to do is do nothing more than, there's 2 bolts in here. This one has got a 17 on the outside, and that is actually indexed into this other piece, and it's designed, that's what you turn on. You do not turn on the smaller one inside. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this thing, and I'm going to gently, gently, gently try to move it. And nothing to it. I feel no resistance. It's a little tight. I'm not going to say I don't feel any resistance, but it's a little tight, and that has to do with the kicks. You can hear the Kickstarter. I mean the electric starter working, and you just run it around a little bit. This thing hasn't been moved in, remember, probably 30 years. I haven't looked at the oil, but it's got clean, clear oil in here, which is nice. So it'll be enough for starting. We're going to change the oil and filter and all that good stuff. But, you know, in case we have to do anything else, we'll make sure that everything's in good shape. All these cases are nice. This is nice. We will check the timing on it, but we don't have to do that at the moment because you really can't do much with these. They're just kind of etched in stone. So we'll put this back on. Okay, so we've got a fully charged battery here that's been sitting on the charger. It is absolutely the wrong size. This is only a 6 amp. This thing needs a 14 amp, but we'll put a jump pack on it to assist it. All I want to do is we're going to go in and see if we have any electrical problems here. So far so good. I would think that this battery should be able to roll this over. So here we go. We are going to go on ahead and give it a shot. Oh, not bad. The only problem is when you use this compression tester, these slides are all the way down, and that doesn't allow the full amount of air to come in. But we should get something good. We'll see some good compression. Turn on the key. Here we go. Whoa! Blew that right off of there. Try that again. All right, now we go. Okay, even with the throttles closed, let me open up the throttle all the way and see if that gives you any more. Oh yeah. That's reading about 130 pounds. Perfect. So that's good. We know the engine's in basic good shape. I'm not going to go through all the rest of them. We want to get this thing running. It's basically all we're concerned with. We got good compression. We'll be fine. No problems at all. And the reason it's got such good compression probably is, remember, I fogged down the cylinders with oil, so that sealed up anything in the rings and whatnot. So the next thing we're going to do while we got this thing going is we're just going to go on ahead and we're going to put a spark plug in here, and we will lay it up against the cylinder head and get it turned to where we can see. And I think what I'll do here is I'll move the camera so you're aiming down. Let's see if we can see that spark plug right there. All right. And I don't know if we're going to be able to see spark, but we'll see. Oh yeah, spark's like crazy. No sweat. We got spark. So with that, we've got spark. Our carburetors are now kind of cleaned up enough to where the throttles work. We know the slides are working. We've got spark. We've got compression, at least on one cylinder. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put the spark plugs back into it, and we're going to go on ahead and get some fuel into on a little baby bottle type affair. We'll feed that with some fuel, and let's just see if we can get this cookie to run. So the spark plugs are back in. I'm going to go on ahead and hook up our little bottle feed thing. I got to put some gas in it, and I think we'll put a little bit of chemical in there to help clean up things. So I will be right back as soon as I get that done. So I've hooked up some vacuum gauges here to here, and we're going to be using some Yamaha additive. It's Ring Free Plus fuel additive, and it's supposed to clean things up. So we're going to put a little gas in here, and then we'll add a little bit of this to it to just get things cleaned up. Remember, we sprayed down these carbs here pretty well with a bunch of carb cleaner, so it's been soaking in there a little bit. So any of that nasty fuel might just go away. We're gonna hit the drains, but we're gonna give this a shot. We'll get some gas in this thing and a little bit of this stuff. I don't know how well it works, but hey, what can you do? Stuff going in there. We're going to add a little bit of this. Not much. And here we go. I am going to hit the starter and let's see what happens. I don't know if this battery is going to be able to do it. I've got a jumper pack get ready. So here we go. How's that? Not bad. Not bad at all. And well, one problem is I had the air intake off, but the reason it started up so quickly is because of all that carb cleaner. What I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to spray a little brake clean in to the intake and see if I can't get it to and remember, our car it runs. Yeesh. Let me get some air in this joint. Whew. Well, I just traced this guy and this thing back, and it's going up to our handlebar switch up here. So what it looks like they've done is, and I'll double check, but it looks like they've got it, they've turned off the, they've bypassed the stop switch part of this whole thing. And Who knows why? But anyway, so what we're going to do here is we will remove this and fix anything that's wrong in here. This is, you need your stop switch. It's a good idea to have. So in our latest development, as I showed you before, someone had jumpered, let me see if I can, it's a little hard to see, but somebody had jumpered the yellow red wire and the brown wire using those squeeze-on clips, which work for a little while, but when they sit around for a long time, they corrode and then they don't make a good connection. So the starter was intermittently working. So what I did is I pulled all that out, and then I had to trace it back because the schematic, I can't find anything about the junction box, whatever. I finally found a schematic so that it can, I can see what's going on. And really what happens is we have a feed coming in from the battery into the ignition switch, and it powers up this red yellow wire. Well, what they had done is taken a switched brown wire and hooked it to that yellow red because the ignition switch wasn't working. So what we're going to do here is I got a little sidetracked and went down a rabbit hole. But anyway, this is I took apart the ignition switch, and this is the pads that go inside of it. They're dirty. They don't look like they look like they would work, but they don't. What happens is when you turn it on, it will connect this white wire to this yellow wire, which hooks into the yellow red, and then it hooks these two together, and it hooks a couple of them together. So there's a parking light and whatnot. So all of these this needs to be cleaned up. So we'll get this thing beautiful, and then the internals of it are not terrible. Some things are still a little fragile here, but it's okay. But we'll get all these guys cleaned up, make sure all the springs are doing what they need to be doing. So I will go on ahead and clean it up. We'll put this ignition switch back together, and hopefully it will come back to life. And the next thing is this thing is filthy. It's unbelievable how bad this is. So I'm going to go clean this up with something called aluminum brightener, and we'll see how that goes, because this thing's just nasty. And the way I'm going to go about cleaning this thing is I'm going to use some contact cleaner, a little bit of contact cleaner. I'm just going to clean this up, first of all, as good as I can, and I'll use a little bit of Scotch-Brite on it. We'll get everything looking really nice. What happens is I've got dielectric grease inside here, and this guy is greased up also. Okay, there's a ball bearing that is a detent for this guy. And then there's a spring that pushes down on that ball bearing, and then the little copper tab that runs along the traces on this gets on top of that. So then this guy, he's all cleaned up. He's got lube on it. Yep, he's all lubed up and nice. And we are going to snap this together. Hopefully it'll just snap together and stay pretty good. I may have to work on this. This piece kind of is broken, but what the real thing that we need to do is make sure that the electrical connections that this thing is supposed to make are being made. So to do that, what we need to do is there is the positions of this, and this is the on, this is the off, and then this is lock, off, on, park. So what we should see here is what we're hoping to see anyway. Yeah, find a meter. Now, how can a meter fall into a black hole? Okay, so what we need to do is set this to continuity, which it is. Put that on. And if you can see, yeah, okay, and then when these touch together, they will, let me get this popped open so you can see. When they touch together, OL means it's infinity, and then this is 0 ohms. Okay, so our key switch is in the on position, and the one that wasn't working here was, and it still may not, it may still have a problem. There could be something else wrong, but the idea here is to get this white wire and this yellow wire in this position to be connected, and they are not, and that is a problem. Okay, so the real issue is why don't these two connect? And it has nothing to do with the wires, because we're right directly on the two terminals that should be connected, and we are, oh no, we're in the off position anyway. Oops, my bad. On. Sorry about that. Let's say that's not working. Now we should have a connection. Let me get this guy back to where we can see again. Okay, so now we want our yellow wire and our white wire to be connected. And they are. And that was not happening before. We did not have that connection. All right, and yep, that's nice. That's looking good. Okay, and these two should be connected, which they are. And then I think our brown-white should also be connected, which it is. Oh yeah, perfect. These two are connected, and then there's a white, blue, and the orange, and they're connected in the on position. Perfect. So this is working properly now, which it was not before. So what we'll do is we'll put this back together, and I'll put it back on the bike, and hopefully things will be better. I just need to make sure that this thing stays down in here. It's a little busted up, so we'll get it all cleaned up. So the main reason for the failure is this little tab is broken off in here, and it needs to sit down like that. So I was trying to think of what I can do to fix that broken part, and there's a much better way to deal with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in here and pin it. And that way it will be real sturdy, and they're not going to be depending on just this little thin piece of plastic. It'll be surrounded by a big piece, and that'll work out very nicely. And this is a little teeny tiny drill. We'll see how this goes. And I'm surprised that this chuck accepts it, but it does, so good. I need to push it in a little bit. Okay. So now what I have to do is when I drill this, I have to be careful because I need to push it into place. So I'm going to use a lead. I drilled the hole, and I'm going to use a lead off of this large capacitor here, and I'll just snip it off and fold it over, and that's all it needs. And just enough hanging out so it can be serviced if necessary, but right now we've got it folded over. Now it's nice and tight, and a nice small black zip tie around this. So this is in good shape. Then this guy here does nothing more than you take this and you take it and you put it in the off position, straight up and down, and then now you can take this and slide it right into place, and it clips right in, and then there's two screws that hold this in position. Well, what I did to remove the ignition switch is, instead of pulling the handlebars off and all that other good stuff, what I did is I just loosened up, I kept on loosening up the top bolt, loosened up these clamps, and just tapped it into place so that it moved up, and I had just enough clearance to get this guy out of here. It's a tight fit in there, but we're going to put it back in, and hopefully I can get it back in without too much trouble. It seems to be in about the right position. There it goes. All right, so that's in there. And then I just got to get those bolts started. Out of the way. There it goes. All righty. And if I didn't have this long 6mm ball end Allen wrench, this would have been a horrible job. But so before I do anything else, I need to lube up these cables. I've got a little cable oiler thing. You clamp it onto the cable, and then you feed one of these guys in. And supposedly, and it's usually a little messier than what you'd like, but it does work. Kind of hold on to it and give it a squirt, and it'll get lube eventually into there. So what is it that we can do to maybe clear up some of this, the way this thing doesn't run? The reason it's not running is because the jets are plugged up, and we expected that. So the main jets have got a little bit of a soaking. When we first put this together, we went on ahead and I squirted brake clean down the fuel inlet, and it was things are running. I mean, especially when you dial it up a little bit, you can hear all 4 cylinders starting to run, and that is because the main jets are probably not plugged anymore, but the pilots most certainly might be. So we need to get these boots off of here. They are hard as rocks. I mean, let me tap it with something. Maybe you can hear it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a heat gun and I'm going to heat them up, and I can get them pliable enough to get them out of there, and then maybe we can get these carburetors off. Yep. Ooh, hot, hot, hot. But it looks like I can maneuver this enough to get the boots out. Boy, they're in there. Okay, there's one. Let's loosen up our clamps first. These might not be as bad as the rear boots. But we'll warm them up anyway, make life a little easier. Just push on the carbs. There we go. And the carbs are loose. So now we can at least get at the cables and be able to work on this stuff a little bit. So let's have a quick look at the back of these carbs. You can see in here it's really kind of baked on crud. There's crud going on in here. These are cleaned up, and one of the reasons they're semi-clean is because I've been spraying carb cleaner in here just to see if I could get the bike to run. It runs, everything is working, but these carbs are just so gummed up. It's futile to even think about trying to do anything but just go on ahead and get them cleaned up. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy here, and can you see? Yeah. We're gonna pop this guy off. Get the jets, okay, and it just got so much crud in there, but nothing insurmountable. So my original plan here was to just spray some brake cleaner in through here and let it soak and see if we get all the junk out of it. not going to happen on this one. So the real issue here is our pilot jets. And these guys are probably completely plugged up. Oh yeah, there's so much junk in there I can't even see. I know I can't get in there, but there's so much junk that the pilot jet itself you can't even see the slot. Well, I'm starting to see it anyway. Now getting it out of there is going to be a whole other sack of worms. Well, I'm going to have to let that soak. So I can't. It's off. And even the carburetor that was running is pretty gnarly. So we'll get those all cleaned up and nice. I guess we can pull these floats out of here. So one of the next things I did is I put the pilot jets into the brake cleaner overnight, and you can see it's kind of turned green. So hopefully it's eaten up some of that stuff that was completely plugging it. And this has just got a some ultrasonic cleaner in it. So it's not the cleanest in the world, but that's okay. These carburetors aren't the cleanest in the world at the moment. So we'll just go ahead and get these guys submerged. It's warming up at the moment, but we're just gonna fire this bad boy up. Hopefully that will start disintegrating some of that nastiness. So I have taken these out of the ultrasonic cleaner, and take a look at that. That is as close to being amazing as you can imagine. Unbelievable. Remember how that one looked inside? It was just completely covered with crust and a little wiping out here, and it's like brand new in there. Unbelievable. Boy, that thing just works. Okay, our floats are all cleaned up. This had a lot of residue on it, and it's basically just wiping off with nothing. Okay, so now all of our jets were completely plugged, and I'm going to give them a head start though with a bit of, and I know you can't see it, but I can see light through each jet for that jet. And let me pull another one out of there and clean it. And I can see light through this one. And I can see light through this one. And I cannot see light through this one. So we're going to have to work on that. So to properly clean a jet, what you want to do is take some stranded wire here, and we're going to take one strand of that, and we're going to use that as our little poker to go through. Now this might be a little fine. Sometimes you got to get something a little heavier, but in pilot jets, the holes are so small that it probably behooves you to get the small one like this. This one is completely plugged, and now I've got it going through there, and you just kind of work it. And now that it's all the way through, what I can do is I can just rotate this a little bit, and what that does is that wire in there kind of polishes the inside. It gets all the extra crud out, but there's no filing action. It takes no metal. The copper the copper is softer than the brass. And now I can take, and I'm going to look through this, And let me clean that out a little bit. Blow it out. And I can now see light through this jet. Okay, so it is now time to start putting these carburetors back together, and it's a fairly simple operation. We'll put the 4 washers in for the main jets. First, we'll get those latched in. And those are done. Then we take, and we are going to put our 4 main jets in. So we got all our jets here all cleaned out. And we'll make sure that we can see our light through each and every one of them before we put them in. Okay, so our floats are in. Now the next thing we need to do is check our float levels, and we are basically going to be running at 22 millimeters. So you just take your calipers, zero them out, 22 millimeters. Or anywhere thereabouts. 21.99, 22, that's good. Good enough. Okay, so then what you do is you take these and you run them level and you just tip them back till the floats just touch. You don't want them compressing the springs, because if you do it this way, it compresses the springs a little bit, and you don't want that to happen. What you want to do is just to where they touch, and then you measure. And that's a little high. We'll just take a look at it. So it's now time to go on ahead and start installing the carburetors. They've all been cleaned up fairly well. I've got a couple of fresh new fuel lines on it. I'm going to leave them really nice and long. There's one vent and there's one fuel line. Okay, so now the next thing you need to do is, before you try to do anything, lubricate the boots. It will make your life so much easier. Okay, so now we'll take our cable, we'll take our carbs, we'll get them basically into place. Okay, we have cleaned up the carburetors. They're back on the bike. The only thing that we need to do here now is go on ahead and turn on the choke. We got fuel going into the carbs. I just checked that. And so let's just go on ahead and give it a start. And here we go. Choke is on. Turn on the key, I guess. That would probably help. is exponentially better than what it was. What we need to do now is get things a little more dialed in. It's running. We got to get it warmed up and just, you know, the crud blown out of it. But running and starting, so let's see how easy it starts. That's tough on the ear. Ooh-wee. Anyway, it's running, and it's running quite good. So we are ready to go on ahead. I'll let this cool off a little bit, but I can go on ahead and put on the carb boots, and when I get done with that, we will, well, it runs. It's not bad. It needs a good old-fashioned Italian tune-up, which means just run the crap out of it for a little bit. We'll put on the carb boots, and then we'll synchronize the carbs. Yep, and brand new carb boots from Kawasaki. Isn't that wonderful? Wow. You know, a 1985 motorcycle and still being able to get these things is just really fantastic. Okay, I've gone on ahead and installed our brand new boots in here. They went on extremely easy. Our carbs are all done. This is the vent that goes in there. I think this goes back into here, which I need to figure out. I think I have to get that line the right length. We now have gas going into it. The gas has been on and I've been feeling around with it. There's no leaks, no nothing. So all that we need to do is go on ahead and we'll give it another start. Get things away from the hot exhaust. So I've been melting stuff like it's going out of style. Good. Anything over there? No, looking good. So here we go. And let's take a look and we'll get these guys kind of synced up a little bit, get it running right, and we'll be ready to go work on the tank because I've got it all cleaned out, but we just need to finalize it. The petcock, I loosened it up, but I don't really know if it's working. And the air cleaner's in it, and we need to put a battery in this, the proper battery. So we'll do that. And hopefully this is the right battery. So we're going to pull this guy out. Moto bat. It's got all sorts of technology here, I guess, when it comes to the way the leads work. And I guess you just put it in the way you want, and you can put the battery in either way. Oh, this is really a nice battery. Wow. Very universal. Cool. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, perfect. So as far as riding is concerned, all that we have to do is put on the tank. But we're going to go ahead and clean things up a little bit. We got some touch-up to do. I'll go through how I make the paint look like it's brand new, but we are in great shape here. Let me see if our battery's got juice, which it does. And here we go. Okay, now we'll go ahead and double check our sink. Everybody is right on target. The gauges are off a little bit, but they're fine. It's almost perfect. So one of the next things we need to do here is we need to pull some of this old brake fluid out. We're not going to do a complete rebuild. We're just going to pull it out because this is what you might do to get your motorcycle running again. These brakes are working, okay? So it's not seized up in there, but it is not good. So we need to at least give this thing a fresh start. Here you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to evacuate all of that. And then what we'll do is we'll put some fresh fluid in it. And then we'll just kind of bleed each brake until we get nice, clear, clean fluid out. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use something called a Mighty Vac. And these are available almost everywhere. It's got a little, this particular one's got a nice little tube in it, and I can take and I will just dip the end of this in here, and it will suck all the fluid out and put it in here, supposedly. And it'll put it in here, supposedly. So we'll see how this goes. So just using a little bit of paper towel or whatever, I'm going to wipe this out. Get it all cleaned up inside. So we got a nice clean start. Then we'll get some fresh new brake fluid in there. And now the idea here is not to introduce any real air in there. Although we have sucked this out, when we put new fluid back in, any tiny little bit of air will pop out to the top. So here I've got nothing more than some plain old .3 is what this calls for. And I'm just going to pour some of this in here. Now what I'm going to do here is I am gently going to squeeze this lever and see if any bubbles come back out. And I can see right now that no bubbles are coming out. So we're not introducing any air into the system. But now we need to get down here. Let's see if we can aim down here. Let me get the camera closer. And all that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put something underneath this and crack the bleeder. I could use a vacuum thing, but we don't need to. We're just going to take and start flowing some fluid through this thing. We'll pump it. We'll open and close it like you're bleeding the brakes, and then we'll watch the container very carefully. Make sure it doesn't go low. Now, what we're going to do here is we're just going to take our little bleeders, and I believe these are 10 millimeter. Yep. And all I got to do, let's see if we can either take a look here. And I've got a little tray underneath that'll catch our stuff, hopefully. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pressure on this, and then I'm just going to gently open this. I'm going to let it drip. And as you can see, it's some pretty ugly stuff coming out. I'll give another pull on the... Okay. I close it off. I let off the master cylinder. Then I get some pressure on it. And I just turn. And we're getting all this ugly stuff out of here. Okay, tighten it back up, let the master cylinder off, whoops. And again, you have to be really, really careful here. So now we need to do the exact same thing to the rear. So we'll pop this guy loose. And we'll pull out our little rubber thingy, and it's not bad. And so now that the bike is running really well, the carbs are synced, it idles well, it revs up, it does all the things that it needs to do. It still needs a good old-fashioned Italian tune-up, but we need to go around it and let's get things cleaned up a little bit, a little touch up here and there, and that way when we put the gas tank back on, everything will be all clean and nice. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for touch-up. And I'm going to use these two products. First of all, trim black. You will never ever find anything that matches the semi-gloss or semi-flat trim on a motorcycle or car. This stuff is amazing and it holds up really well. And for the glossy parts, we're going to use the same thing, trim black, ultra. Ultra just means it's black. But the SEM product, this stuff is so durable. So what we're going to do is we'll either be spraying, or I'm going to just go on ahead and use a touch-up brush. I'll spray it on a piece of paper or something and do that. But anyway, I'm going to go around this motorcycle. I'm going to go clean a few things up, and then we will get this thing ready for prime time. So now we've got our basic touch-up done. I'm going to go on ahead and let that dry, and then we'll go on ahead and just polish all the pieces of the frame and whatnot. We're not going to just goop it up with some sort of shiny stuff. We're going to actually use some sort of polish on it that will give it a nice base, and then we'll put some goop on it. But for now, we are going to get this thing nice and cleaned up. Most of the stuff is touched up. The trim black will, when it dries, you'll never even see it in there. We just got a few other things that we need to do, but it's looking good. So now it's time to turn our attention to the tank. We've cleaned out all the rust. It's in good shape, but we have to deal with the petcock and a few other things. And one of the things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull the petcock off, take a look at it. And I've been putting some gas in here just to kind of clean up what's going on, dump all that out, and we will get this thing going. We also have to fix the lock in here, so I'll get to that. I'm going to go out and dump out the gas. Well, the good part is what I dumped out of this was almost perfectly clean. There was just almost no crud, which is wonderful. That's what we wanted. Okay, to deal with this petcock, and it's still a little nasty, but there's some clean fuel in there. It's not terrible. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to take this thing, put it in a little tray, and let's just douse some of this crud off of it. We'll use a little bit of carburetor and choke cleaner. We'll douse it. So the first test that you want to do on a vacuum operated petcock is to make sure that the diaphragm holds vacuum. Now I've got a Mighty Vac here, and I'm just going to give it about -10 vacuum, and it's holding. It's fine. So step one is done. Now what we want to do is see if the if this thing flows when you get a vacuum on it. So we're going to try a couple things here. I lost the hose. Let me get an air hose ready, and we'll see if we can just do it that way. Okay, so in the prime position with no vacuum on it, we can blow through it and I can see stuff coming out. I can see it hitting there. Doesn't smell very good, but that's okay. Right here. Now I'm just going to blow through this thing and see if I can see any fluid coming out. And we got nothing. And it's kind of full in there. And then now I'm going to take and give it some vacuum and I should see something leak out. And there it goes. So it opened up. Let's take a look at this guy. It's so after a whole lot of cleaning and scrubbing and more cleaning, we now have a lock that works. Good. I'll put this back on and go from there. So now that we've got this bike running, before we go out and take a test drive, let's take a quick lap around it and just get a review of what we've done. So, first things first, we degunked the carburetors in 2 stages. The first stage was to get the slides and diaphragms all cleaned up. Then we removed the carburetors, got all the junk out of the jets, got them all cleaned up, put new rubber boots in here that you can actually move. We've gone on ahead and changed the oil and filter. Then I went on ahead and we cleaned out all the old fluid from the brakes. We flushed it all out. We got nice fresh fluid going on in there. We've flushed out the tank. We cleaned it up with some acylic acid and it is in beautiful shape. The seat was in great shape. Didn't have to do anything to that other than just spray it with some detailer. We've got some more detailing to do, but for the most part, it's in wonderful shape. It runs great at the moment. Again, I haven't really ridden it yet, but we'll see about that as soon as we do our test ride. We've cleaned up all any rust that I found has been removed completely. All the excess stuff on the engine and whatnot, carburetors are working good. The enricher valves are perfect. They worked exactly as they're supposed to. Nice and clean, they click. All the controls have all been cleaned up. Everything is working nice. We remember we went through the ignition switch. So everything is working perfectly. We got that funky hot wiring that was going on inside out of there. This thing is ready to rock. It's going to need a final detail, but other than that, it is in wonderful shape. Well, it is rainy, it's cold, it's windy, but we're going to ride this thing.
I gotta tell you, that thing runs beautiful. I mean, it is just, I mean, it's miserable out here, but it shifts beautifully. Everything, it just is smooth. It runs perfect.
Well, we have had a completely successful revival. The Kawasaki is running beautifully. It shifts well. Everything is working. I haven't been able to take it for a long test drive because it's raining out there and the wind is blowing about 1,000,000 miles an hour. But it is in great shape. It looks good. It is ready for prime time. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will catch you next time here on Gearhead Geeks.